Welcome back to the next session, to the next panel, to everybody in the audience. I hope we'll get some more, but we simply will start punctually today. I thank you all for joining this not so typical session on a very different subject that relates directly to hydropower. We will today present a couple of organizations and initiatives that do something within hydropower, for hydropower, in a very different way as compared to the normal technical sessions and engineering. We will show you some European initiatives today, one on research, development and innovation, another one on the industry and networking initiatives. Unfortunately, we could not get a candidate on the panel from these, but Edward Dujak will have the honor to say a couple of sentences on these. We'll have, in fact, even 3 global perspectives on hydropower, the standard and the World Bank's hydropower program. And we will also look at gender in hydropower. And with that, we're going to be started. I will not introduce the other panelists. All of them will do that themselves. My name is Barbara Fischer-Aupperle, and today I'm representing the Global Women's Network for the Energy Transition, short GWNET. I was a co-founder of that NGO 5 years ago and am a board member until today. And our first questions say, who are you and whom do you represent? What does your organization stand for? I can tell you that GWNET aims to advance global energy transition by empowering women in special through networking, advocacy, training and mentoring. We are proud to say that we're in the 15th year of our 5th year of our existence and 15 mentoring programs for women in all disciplines. We seek to address the gender imbalance in the energy sector generally and to promote gender-sensitive action. And we currently are up to 3,000 members from more than 140 countries. So that leads me to the next introduction. Edward Dujak, it's your turn.
Okay. Welcome from my side. After the lunch break, it's always hard to to follow. And came from the Vienna University of Technology, representing today here a new action, a new initiative. It's called COST. COST stands for Cooperation and Science and Technology. It's the oldest funding scheme in the European Union since 1970, and we applied for this COST action in last year. Have been awarded this year and started in September, so we are quite brand new here on this pan-European network on sustainable hydropower. You see the members. We take the entire world as members, certainly with a little bit of different status. We have the European countries, 40 countries as primary members. The green, this is the neighboring countries, except Russia now since February. And of course, partner countries like South Africa and third-party countries, the rest of the world can participate in this COST action. So next. Structure of this kind of networking is we have 5 working groups. Working groups on technical issues like flexibility, what we heard today, technical issues to cover, to discuss. We have second major interest in technology and innovation, in digitalization, all those things, coming from, again, operation maintenance, these new trends, technologies. Of course, sustainability, working group on environmental issues, social issues, and things like that, climate change, climate adaptation. Also, policy, a little bit in this clean energy transition, this set plan, and of course somehow a holistic assessment with stakeholder interaction. So this is not a network and not an action or initiative just dealing with these technical issues of hydropower, but going beyond, going in a more global way. As we have basically networking points to consider, we have grants, we have some special positions which I came up maybe later on in a later update.
So that leads us to the next panelist. Michael, please take over.
Yes, my name is Michael Belsners. I work in Sintef, but here today I have an ERA hat on. I'm original Danish. I grew up with wind turbines on all corners. I was not satisfied, so I moved to Norway and took a degree in hydropower. So this is where my heart lies now. I have lived longer in Norway than I have lived in Denmark, so now I have stopped saying hello to people on the bus because they look on me as I'm sick. But I will still stop and talk to them for a long time if I meet them on the mountain slope. Yes, I'm going representing ERA here, which is the European Energy Research Alliance. And our purpose, as you can imagine, when I tell you that only 10% of the research in Europe are actually managed by Horizon Europe and research programs in Europe. The rest is managed by the national programs. And the role of ERA is to represent a link between this research in Europe and the national research so that this can become more coordinated. This means that for us it is important that we have all the research institutions in Europe on board, as many as possible. And what we are trying to do is to impact on the calls, gather peoples for consortium, and make a difference in Europe. In this program for hydropower, we have 6 working groups. We have the traditional working groups on hydropower machines, on hydropower construction and dams. We also have what we have been discussing a lot already today, grid and market integration, which is led by me. We are looking on water resources, changing water resources, all the environmental aspects that goes into making hydropower more sustainable. But we also have a group of people working with social acceptance, which is a big issue, as I understand, for the discussion today. How important are the mice compared to the importance of people? And then we work a lot with digitalization, as we do in Europe in a broader setting, how digitalization can help hydropower to become more efficient, more secure, and so on.
Okay, thank you, Michael. So, next would be Manuel from the World Bank.
Yes, thank you, and thank you very much for inviting us to this event. I always keep looking at my pictures there. I love it. It's 15 years old, and I'm like, I should keep using that picture. So my name is Manuel Berlingero. I'm a lead energy specialist at the World Bank. I oversight and coordinate our energy program across Europe and Central Asia. I think most of you probably know the World Bank, so this slide is just to highlight a bit of our basically key principle. And we have 189 members, which is basically the countries that owns the bank. We really work to end extreme poverty and promote shared prosperity, which is our mission. I would say that energy is one of the core business in the World Bank exactly because of the link that energy and importance that energy has vis-a-vis this mission. So you'll see, and when you also couple this with the climate change challenges that we are facing, you can understand why we have such a strong focus on energy. And I wanted, maybe on the next slide, Barbara, I'll spend a bit more time here. So I wanted to show you why we have this kind of very important focus on hydropower at the World Bank, and a growing one we will discuss later. I think you have seen everywhere in the world, countries are setting up carbon neutrality targets. I mean, Austria has a 2040 carbon neutrality targets, Europe as a whole has 2040 or 50, and every country has it. And there is no way to meet those targets without increasing renewable. And obviously, people focus a lot on wind and solar, which are like a great scale up, but without hydro, you won't be able to integrate that wind and solar. So hydro is the only low carbon technology today that can provide the services of thermal units. So that's why it's so important for the transition. And I think you have a consensus, EIA, and everybody calls for doubling hydropower capacity. But we have to do it right. And it requires everybody to work together to make it. So that's, for me, why it's so important, this event today. Every time we can work towards hydro, it's a good thing to do.
Okay. Thank you very much,
Thank
Manuel.
you.
So, Nathyeli, it would be your turn to introduce yourself.
Hi, hello. I'm Nathyeli Acuña, gender specialist at the World Bank as well. So Manuel already explained a little bit about our mission and everything, but I work in this particular place called ESMAP, which is the Energy Sector Management Assistant Program. And one of the things that we like to use a lot is this metaphor about ESMAP being the little boat and the World Bank, or the energy sector of the World Bank, this big boat. And why is that? Because we are looking for innovations. And pretty much what we're trying to do is to multiply the money that we're providing governments and countries to finance them, to have like more energy access. One of the important things that we do as well is like trying to close knowledge gaps. And it could be in the form of like knowledge exchange or research or many other analytical work that we're presenting there. The program that I manage is like the Gender and Energy Program. And one of the reasons that we're working on this, as Manuel mentioned, is like because we will try to reduce poverty and share prosperity. And we know that working in gender equality issues actually work. I don't need to tell you, like, women are, like, in general, facing more constraints and barriers to different types of services and also having more jobs. And one of the reasons that we are here and we're presenting has to do with this particular study that we are trying to assess what is going on with women in the sector. And there's no doubt that we need more women in the sector. See, around here, most of the people are men. And in our study, we found out that about 30% of the workers in the sector are women. And of course, we don't have 30% of people here that are women. One of the things that we also do is like try to measure our impacts with specific indicators that you can see it here in these little circles that I put it in there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Nathyeli. Eduard, do you want to jump in on ATIP once more?
Yeah, unfortunately, nobody of ATIP show up here on this panel discussion. Maybe just to give you an idea what ATIP stands for. ATIP is a European technology and innovation platform. It's dedicated normally to technologies. There are also ATIPs around for wind, solar, other technologies, and ATIP Hydropower originated from this Hydropower Europe project and was established this autumn, I think in September, started to get in action in September as well, is involved in the set plan, and the set plan is this strategic energy technology plan of the European community, which is quite interesting because this kind of set plan drives more or less the working program in the future, what will be done. Members, everybody can get a member, but not but to this point. ATIP is, as Michael presented, ERA, the academic part. ATIP is more driven by company, by the industry, but not only limited to that. Yeah? It's, they participate, the goals are to participate in this set plan and to promote hydropower, of course, as all of us are doing now here. So I see ATIP in conjunction or in addition to us here. But yeah, unfortunately.
Okay.
Just
Thanks
as a
very
brief
much.
to give an idea what is ETIP
you
for.
You don't have to replace them in full because they're not there themselves. And I do not want to say any critical statement for that now. The industry should promote itself much better. That I want to say. And the absence of a representative for such an organization in this round, despite multiple invitations, I understood, is a gap. And I was working in hydropower for 33 plus years in international sales, in communications and in hydropower. I'm not an engineer, but I think I have a little bit more than basic understanding of what hydropower is and how it works technically and market-wise. So I think I know what I'm talking about, and I still feel that the industry, especially the operational entities with equipment suppliers where I was working for and operators, do not defend their case too much. You cannot even overdo it right now, I think. So after this comment, we get to the second round of our questions. This was the introduction round. We have something like 1, 2, 3 European people, 1, 2, 3 global people in roles they take today. So our second round would answer the questions: what is your organization, your motivation for that work? And what are your achievements? And what are some of the detailed activities that are going on in your organizations under maybe which goals? So for GWNET, I can say our main focus of activity is mentoring women all over the globe. And we've started to do that virtually long before COVID came around the corner. So we were pretty exercised in doing virtual online mentoring. We have more than 500 mentors in the meantime in our database. We have reached out to 70 countries which mentoring for women. We entertained 4 study tours in the meantime, one of them this year going to Munich, to e-mobility congress, and on the side we did a networking event in the order of the German Ministry for Exterior with its agency GIZ or DENA. And we also have an active online storytelling campaign, so whatever you want to know about us, just go to our website. What our main motivation and drive is to facilitate connections among women in the renewable energy sector or energy transition sector that work in that field or want to join that field. And it can include not only renewables, but also energy efficiency. And the mentoring programs range from storage, clean cooking, to wind, solar. Hydropower is just starting to be part of that in a more active way. We are very much connected to the US-based hydropower women's mentoring program, where I myself am a mentor too. So as you can see by the pictures, our networking effects are our main focus and main effort at the moment. And we also have established in the meantime a good platform for female experts, like more than 1,000 as far as I know, because the old story always says, well, we would take some more females into the panels or whatsoever if there weren't any, if there were any. But the fact is, it's not really looked out for. So what we can offer to you, if you want to talk to experts in renewables and energy transition that are female, come to us and ask us, we will present you some. That's no big problem. It's just a matter of making them available and visible. And visibility for women, like for the hydropower industry, they should be much more related, is an issue for itself, and that I will not do more lengthy today. So these are our mentoring programs running since 2018. We're up to the 15th. Most of these programs are paid by governmental organizations. A lot of German ministries help us to do these things. And I heard today that one of the group tours that we do in some of the programs on a paid basis passed through Austria just last week from OSCE. Visited Andritz on the site. I think I'm allowed to say that, and went into that tour with lots of fun and lots of interest. And I heard from the organizers that they were really successful and that everybody was having great impressions about that tour. So again, if you want to get in contact for us, you will get these slides in your app or conference website with your registration access. Don't shy away from contacting us and talking to us about more things we could do for you, for more females in hydropower. The normal average is 30%. I don't see these 30% here in this conference today. I've been in an American-based Clean Currents called conference 2 weeks ago, where I see more females, but they are pushing much harder also for their workforce, not only for gender, but also for any type of qualification and any type of diverse people. And that, for the moment, I think, is good enough for me. So, Eddie, it's your point now.
Yeah, achievements is quite difficult to explain because we started in September, but at the moment we have close to 100 working group members. The management, or the, how is cost constructed? The approval board is more or less the so-called management committee. And a management committee member is a delegate of a European country. So we have these 40 countries by being member of the cost action. Each country can delegate 2 persons. Can I go back?
Yep. Sorry.
Can delegate 2 persons into this management committee, so they take all the decisions, they take the approval, they run more or less the cost action, and they have to find the decisions. Basically, it's we have 48, close to 50 persons, so means more than 30 countries of the 40s are inside of the cost action. It's not possible to run an action like this with 30 countries, 48 persons taking decisions, so we will start to discuss a long time. There is a core group, and the core group consists of the action chair, the vice chair, and this working group leaders. So in total we are about 15 persons building the core group and leading, preparing the activities in this initiative, and getting in touch with the called working group members. So each particular person can be member of this cost action and participate in one of these working groups. Means that the management committee members are also working group members plus regular participants in this working group. We started on the 14th of September. Before, we had already around 70 working group applications, so 70 persons applying for membership of the cost action. 2 months later, we are around 100 persons, so this group is quite growing. We have to explain that being member, this is just on a volunteer basis, so cost does not pay for research work, does not pay for any kind of salary, so this is all on a voluntary basis. What cost funds is the networking activities, and I think we come maybe later on to these networking activities, but the structure is quite interesting, and as we have those applications to the working groups, if we go now to the next slide, we see the distribution. 3 working groups with quite a big share of applications. So we accepted also that some members applied for 1 working group or even for more. So this is also possible. It's just if somebody wants to be active, why not? Why not taking his activities? And we see basically this working group 3 is the biggest group in this cost action. Yeah? These technical 2 ones and this environmental policy and stakeholder, I think we will fill up again when we start activities, when we create more awareness, like here today, that we go out to the public and present what we are doing and so on. what is quite interesting if we have those working group applications, and this is something which we discussed before, and the panel before showed us the need, I think, on we need flexibility, we need to install in 2030, in 2040, a lot of terawatt hours, but basically, who will do that? Yeah, so the youngsters will do that. All those young guys here sitting in front will have to take up this action, and not me, because I'm retired at that time. Yeah, maybe 2030 I will be working, but 2040 definitely no. Then I can just advise. And it's what makes me really a little bit worrying is that if you see the percentage here, we have young researchers, and I mean young researcher is not 25. We define young researcher below 40. Yeah, which is quite old. That even with 40 years, we have a share of around 20 to 30% on young researchers in our group. Means that hydropower has too much seniors. This is, sorry to tell that in that practical way, but maybe this gives also a little bit the explanation why hydropower is seen mature as it was said today, as it's a given technology, it's an existing technology, it's there, we are using it, and so on. Yeah? So, and this, honestly, this is one point I would like to increase. I would like really more to exchange in the cost action, to exchange researchers from ERA and ETIP, and bring more knowledge exchange and more youngers on board. Yeah. And yeah, what you said,
to the next one.
To the next point is also gender aspects in the working group. So we see also here what you presented before, the share of female in this group represents basically, yeah, the same view. What other experiences are? What are your experiences? And I think we all can work together to maybe increase this year. Yeah? Mm-hmm.
What amazes me here is that working group 3, that is really technically oriented, has...
This is environmentally.
Environment. Okay, that explains it. Because what we heard, just to let you know, this is no secret. I'm working in that cost project also, and I'm in working group 5, which is holistic assessment and stakeholder relations. Some of you smile that know me, because that's been my issue all these years. But what I see here is that the environmental working group is attracting more females, and the interpretation also from the dean of this university was that if he propagates hydraulic engineering, it's like 18–19% of women, female students that come in you, while when it's called environmental engineering, it's up to 30% and more. So I wanted to give the industry another perspective about maybe also renaming some of their stuff away from hydraulic engineering. Nobody knows, male or female, what is really hydraulic engineering and how many facets does that discipline have. I talked to a couple of women in the frame of the study that said, before my mentor didn't push me into hydraulic engineering, I had no idea how many different things I could look at and how many opportunities would develop from that. I guess that the present women might be able to confirm that also. But that's one little cornerstone, and I see that the percentage of women, gender, and the percentage of youngers is sort of around 20 to 30%. That's too little for the future. But
it's not sustainable.
And not, yeah, well, that's a consequence. If it's not possible in the future, it's not sustainable at all, no? Okay, so, but we want to jump back once again with Michael coming in once more. I found this pretty nice and provoking.
Yes. Now Eddie changed the mode here. Now I know what a dinosaur feel like. And I think I have to change my script a little bit because of that. I get motivated by the value that we can create from hydropower. I am working with scheduling tools for hydropower and in an evaluation in Norway. One of the projects that I have been working with was valued to €1 billion, and that is a big motivation. I have another motivation here on the screen that is much, much larger. Because I have made a kind of very simple calculation of what are the reservoirs in Europe worth if you are going to replace them with a very optimistic battery price. I feel that we are sitting on gold. How much gold is difficult to say. But one motivation here is to contribute to that this heap of gold is as big as possible. So it's motivating to try to find out where is the role of hydropower into the Fit for 55 plans, into the Repower EU plan and towards the Paris goals, so that hydropower can take the place that I feel that it should rightly have in our future energy system. And some of the things that we are working, I'm a bit impatient as a person. And I see that when it comes to things that we have been doing or achieving, it's too slow. But at least we have got hydropower into the Horizon 20 program. There are now specific hydropower calls, more than there has been before. This is a victory. But then it becomes extremely important that both the industry and the research institutes actually follow up on this. We need to deliver good applications so that the Commission sees that hydropower is actually a relevant technology, and there are very intelligent people out there that are willing to contribute to what Europe are trying to achieve. So it actually goes a little bit beyond what is on the slide here, like supporting wind and solar generation. We have so much hydro storage available. And there are scientific results that shows that what you need in terms of storage is much less than the 170 terawatt hours that Europe has available in order to Europe to become 100% renewable, taking up the variability of different combinations of solar and wind. This is a message that we need to push forwards, and that I will gladly help pushing forwards. We are the...
Is that the right one?
You are coming to my notes now. Okay. We are the largest provider of flexibility in Europe. And we have the possibility to take a very big role in what Europe are trying to achieve here. So there are different ways to do this, not just impacting on the calls, but also be active on the different arenas where the European Commissions are asking for counsel. So ERA Hydropower has been part of the writing of the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda for the ZP partnership. So we try to be active into the calls that are going directly towards targeting the energy transition in Europe. And in addition, we are aiming for the possibility of becoming Z-plan relevant, because then the impact on the future prioritization of research money will be much larger.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And for the ones who want to come back to Michael, you'll find his credential also in the presentation. I would like to hand over to Manuel again and let him talk about why and what is the World Bank doing in terms of hydropower development.
Thank you. And I'll maybe also go a bit off script because I found interest in the two reference before. So I'll present a bit what the World Bank has been doing, and here on the graph, I'll get there shortly, but you can see that it is also that we support a lot the modernization and rehabilitation of hydro, and it resonates a bit with what is a generational shift that needs to happen, right? How the hydropower system look like today is very different from how they will look like in 20 years, and different services will need to be provided. The industry will also have to rethink its kind of capital remuneration for the hydro project that it will develop. And it will also require technical innovation. It's really like, it's almost a shift, a paradigm shift in what is happening today, what will happen tomorrow. And when you look at modernization and rehabilitation of hydro, in the past, you always think, oh, I have a turbine to change. Okay, I'll take it out and put a new one. But now it's really, you have the opportunity to rethink the project. You have to really change your frame of mind. And that's why it's so important, I think, that we always try to do more and more in rehabilitation, upgrading and modernization, because it's really, and I'll touch upon that also later. But anyway, the bank has been supporting hydropower since its foundation, since I think the first year is 1948. But you could see that it's a bit of a waves. And the color you see also, it shows a bit the importance that private sector and industry are taking over the later years. So the green and orange, it's a project supported by our sister organization, which is the IFC and MIGA. And you can see the number is increasing over the years. And I think if I were to project, maybe not the project, but the commitment that the bank is making from 2017 forwards, you will see also a growing number, because we have a renovated mandate today, thanks to the decarbonization agenda, to do more and more hydro. Let me just quickly go through a few of the countries where we work on, because I think they're quite relevant. I was here in the Repower EU. Actually, this is something that the European Commission has asked the World Bank to help in Romania and Bulgaria to foster actually hydro opportunities, especially in rehabilitation and modernization, for allowing more stability in the system and different services to be provided. We have an active engagement, again, staying closer to Europe, to Western Balkans and Turkey. And going further, we have an expected major program in Central Asia. We already have big projects there, but you have hydropower projects like the Rogun hydropower dam, the Cambarata dam, who can change the face of the region. But I go back a bit to the point before. It's not that easy to do hydropower, because lots of places need to come into place. And I think one of the role, I talked about the vision before of the World Bank in terms of decarbonization and hydropower, but one of the roles that we play, the World Bank and other development partners in general, is what's called patient financing. You have to be very patient to do hydropower, especially greenfield project, because it requires lots of activities to go into place. So if you switch to the next slide, I'll show. So this is basically what the evolution of what the World Bank does today in hydropower. It didn't start like that, but this is what we do today. And you will see that it tries to follow the network approach. You need the industry, you need the research institution, you need every actor, community to be part of that dialogue to make sure that hydropower is successful. The idea is that the inner circle show you a bit the barriers that you have when you consider the industry, the financial, governance, environmental and social and technical. And we try to turn the barriers into basically the opportunity, which is the outer ring that you see there in this graph. And we target our support so well before the financing. So the financing is something that happens only at the end. We really try to bring actors together. And in particular, something that is really been changing over time is the environmental and social aspects, which now we call, we have new standards, the hydropower sustainability standards, which have been developed after a long consultative process, and we really try to push basically every project to adapt those standards in terms of going forward. And I also wanted to raise, maybe just highlight the benefit sharing mechanism, which is becoming more and more important across the world. Communities need to see the benefit of hydropower directly, not only through big dams being built. So it's, but again, the modernization and rehabilitation of existing infrastructure is something that can also allow for easier management of environmental and social and benefit. So that's why it's also so important.
Okay.
Thank you.
So my question to you in the next round, not now, would be how much potential does the World Bank see in refurbishment of hydropower as an addition, but not for now, for later, just before I forget it. So I want to give the word again to Nathyeli to do her final share here. What exactly is now the importance of gender equality in hydropower, not only in energy generally?
Yeah, thank you, Barbara. And building on what Manuel is saying, right, one of the important things is about like rethinking the sector. It has to do with the attraction of jobs and how we are like tackling really the industrial revitalization and everything. So we know we need a lot of people working in the sector. We know that this is important to tackle all the climate change goals. So it is important to gather and to group women and hire more women in the sector. Where we are doing this, well, first of all, it's a very profitable sector. One thing that is important to know and understand. But also because we know when we include women in the labor force, we reduce poverty really quickly. So the World Bank actually had been studying this for years and what is the impact of women in the labor force. And back 10 years ago, one of our studies said that when women work, you can explain the reduction of poverty by 30%. So it's a lot. I mean, this figure is particular for Latin America. So if women didn't work in Latin America in the past decade, poverty in Latin America would be 30% higher, which is insane to think about. So we know we have the potential. We know we have pipeline issues because, as Barbara mentioned, there's not a lot of people working, like studying the right engineers for being part of the sector, but also women who would like to get into the sector, they're facing tons of barriers. And one of the things has to do with the lack of role models. Sometimes the places that women work are too far away from family and they need to take care of that because of gender norms. We need to start like thinking about a little bit on how to change the sector, societies, gender norms, and even biases in regards of how we employ women. One of the things that we're doing in this study, besides understanding how many women are in the sector, it's also we're providing a list of recommendations that, of course, are not cookie cutter. We are trying to provide recommendations as recommendations that could be adaptable and could be taken in place by different contexts in countries. They're also going to help us out, to replicate those types of activities everywhere in the world, wherever we are having hydropower investments. The other thing that we would like to do with this particular study is, to disseminate and having these platforms such as right now, and you guys to know that we are going to have this study and you use it. We really need people to start using it and to understand that gender is part of the sector as well. It's not something that is like out there in a cloud that is just moving around. It is something that is like intrinsic part of the sector. As Manuel mentioned, it is social, environmental dimension that is important. At the end of the day, I mean, what we're looking for, then again, is the reduction of poverty, and we know that working in this type of initiatives actually work. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So, with this, we are at the end of the official slide presentation, and we are awaiting your questions in the Slido. I got one first question, and I understand I have to do this to make it appear on the screen. Yep. It says, to ERA, what roles towards modernization strategy of old hydropower plants? Second question in that, what is your focus area in hydro R&D towards integration with stochastic power sources? That I don't understand, but maybe, Michael, you will take this one. I can give it to you because it's
I would like to see the question.
It's switching over now.
Yeah. In the grid and the market integration group, we have competence from people that has worked many years with hydropower scheduling in a traditional sense. We are sharing our competence on new methods that we apply into to the scheduling problem, meaning switching from typically more deterministic approaches into stochastic approaches. Research shows that if you are considering the value of hydropower towards the energy market, you will have to suffer the same variability and periods of low prices that that wind and solar will have. But if you can use the hydropower flexibility, such as in pump storage, increase the flexibility in hydropower implementing pump storage, you will have the possibility to increase your revenues quite many times, and not just paying for the equipment, the pump storage equipment, but also gaining substantial revenues from participating in a multi-market setting, as we see that the power market goes in direction of. So that hydropower provides all the possible different type of reserves, not maybe the fastest one, but the ones that contains a component of energy. I think that was one of them, and you had two.
The second was, what is your focus areas in hydro R&D towards integration with stochastic power sources?
I've been speaking a little bit about grid integration. Then we have quite much work on what we call environmental design. How can you create these new possibilities for hydropower and at the same time respecting the environmental goals set by the commissions for the water bodies from the UN regarding sustainability and biodiversity. We are trying to figure out good ways to how you can show the economic benefit on one side and ecological improvements on the other side, so that you can create win-win situations for hydropower in the future.
Okay, thank you. So next question, when will the study be available? Nathyeli.
This is for me. Well, we are thinking about the beginning of next year. Which is, we just finished the research and we just got approved to go ahead. We just need to tweak several things, and this is going to be available and ready in the World Bank website and ESMAP website as well, which is pretty easy. It's esmap.org. So whenever you guys next year, you can try to find it there.
Okay. I would like to add on to this. What exactly is your expectation or your recommendation towards various subsectors of hydropower to do with the study results?
One of the things that I think is important to consider is, as I said, recommendations are adaptable. So, I mean, discuss about recommendations and how you can be able to adapt those. But also, you know, working with technical people for them to understand what it is important, understanding what are the barriers that women are facing and try to tackle those for you know, creating working groups, working with utilities, working with HR. I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about people, not something that is like different than people, right? So it's important to know that they have expectations, they have also frustrations, so working on those is important.
Okay, thank you very much. There is my question. I put it in the Slido for you, Manuel. So I won't
anonymous,
forget.
so it's like
sure.
Now
What
we
else?
know with the anonymous.
So no, I added up the what is the potential versus new installations that the World Bank wants to drive. Can you give us some gigawatt, megawatt numbers, or?
I can give you some indication, let's say, and some caveats. So the refurbishment potential, if you look at the I was trying to find whether it's our information or the International Energy Association numbers, but we agree with them if that's their assumption. By 2030, you will have probably 20% of hydropower installation worldwide, which are more than 55 years old. So that's already late, because if you want to start projects, you have to start now to be actually ready in 2030. So that's already 20% more than 55. There will need to be rehabilitation. And the new installation, I think by 2050, they are forecasting 1,300 gigawatt of new hydropower that needs to be in place to meet the carbon neutrality worldwide. It's a huge number if you consider the challenges that you have in front. On the refurbishment potential, I also wanted to link it a bit with the innovation and the pump storage, because I think, again, I like to use the term modernization rather than refurbishment or rehabilitation, because when you modernize the power plant, you may actually gain efficiency. You may produce more electricity. The more electricity may actually be used to have a pump station, and then turn the site into pump storage, or in other countries you can use it for cheap irrigation. So it's really a rethinking of the hydropower facility more than just rehabilitation and modernization. And we may come up with an even better word, and that includes greenfield investment. So it's a bit of a mix between a traditional rehabilitation, but also greenfield investment to make it more modern and more adapted to the system that is serving.
Okay, thank you very much. Any of the other panelists wants to add up on this expectation? How is it going to change the face of the industry? I mean, that was already said this morning. Lots of things are in a change. They are pacing up, but in some places or moments you feel that hydropower is still sort of trying to adopt. They have been very stable for a very long time, and my perception is that the mindset is still in that position in a lot of places, not everybody, but in a lot of places. And on one side you have the complaints that the industry cannot move forward fast enough, but then the behavior is almost the opposite of this. So who wants to say something about this? I think, Michael, you told me something in the preparation call that was really interesting on that.
Yes. I think to jump on the pump storage issue, that is that I also think is very important. You can make the experiment in your mind that the benefit of the batteries that we have just shown is extremely expensive, is that they can be recharged. Hydropower is also recharged, but it's much slower. And in the future, with more climate variation, we are maybe less certain on how fast this recharging will be. So that is one good reason, I think, to consider pump storage to a much larger degree than today. And the other is that even though you don't need so much storage to balance the energy system, also when it becomes completely renewable, is that you need still a lot of capacity. So when I see projects claiming now we are building this many megawatts in this pump, in this run-of-river power plant, I get a little bit disappointed, because from what I see that we need is a capacity that we can that can be very large and that we can use when the wind is not blowing or the sun is not shining, that we can use for moving energy from the high renewable periods to the low renewable periods. And if you look on Europe as such, if you take the climate data that we have available, they are always changed. There will be weeks, 2 weeks time at a time, several periods every year, where there will be very, very little solar and wind available. And these periods we need to cover with something.
Okay, Eddie, you sort of shook your head already a minute ago. You want to go on this?
That's, I mean, obviously it's true. I mean, it's not a wide vision to see that we need more storage. With pump storage, I have a little bit the troubles that we will not be fast enough to build that. Maybe we will not build that much capacity as we think. We are adding a lot of not capacity but power to existing storages. If you see the projects in Austria ongoing, most of the cases are existing storages, just building a new power plant there. Just you certainly will get a little bit more out of the existing storage, but I mean the capacity is in the reservoir, and it means you have to build more reservoirs. Or the change of high-head power plants to pump storage, and we know that there is a dedicated call, Horizon Europe call, will come on innovative pump storage technologies in the future. So this is also one point where all these initiatives today should work together. ETIP in the set plan, this strategic energy transmission plan. Also ERA is working towards that to come up with those really challenging things. This what is needed on innovation in the future, and it has to be financed somehow. Yeah. I think it was perfectly in the opening statement, innovation does not just fall from somewhere down to earth, so it has to be financed. And yeah, Europe needs to finance, and due to this kind of combination work in the direction of being representative, making hydropower a voice in Europe, we had been successfully to include future calls and future possibilities to have research projects on that. Yeah. We will need that. Still, we need more youngers to do the research work later on. But there is one point, is the need what we see, what was discussed in the morning. We need that. We have to add additional. We have to reduce those governmental things and all these issues to come faster with into process. But still, we will need youngers. We will need educated people in the future to do all those things. Yeah? Especially if we see how long it tries from starting an idea in hydropower till the commissioning, till the operation. Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is perfect for you, that came in the chat. What can we do in order to attract more young people? Big question, big answer, please. It's not an easy one.
It's not standing. Who should give the answer?
Well, we all try our best, okay? Why don't you start, Eddie?
Yeah, well, this is a good point, how to attract young people. Maybe you should ask them just on their own. Yeah? There are some of us, some of the youngers here, some of the colleagues, my colleagues are working with me. Well, first of all, we have to create awareness. I think universities are those institutions having really contact to the youngers. Industry can provide money, can provide jobs, it's true, but basically in universities have those connections, have the young researchers on hand, and need at the end always industry to, that it does not make sense just to educate somebody and not having later on a job. So it needs universities and things. To attract more is, to give more visibility. I mean, I'm since more than 20 years on this conference. It is an up and down. It is sometimes, do you have some students you would like to hire some? I said, no, there are no. The other point, 2 years later, I asked, I have somebody, do you need someone? No, this time we don't need somebody. So it's like this matchmaking. What I see on the university since 25 years, it's a little bit of change also in studying. In studying in terms of younger people, they are not just studying because they would like to educate their own. They are studying those fields where they see jobs in the future. And I think that's obviously, that's clear. I educate myself to a field where I have later on the possibility to work, to get my money, to get, to be creative. And if you are not attractive, and as I showed before, to say, well, if we have only 20% youngsters, how should this be attractive to other youngsters?
Can I build out on
sure.
it? Yeah, sure. Because it has to do a little bit with gender, if you want, as well, right? I mean, you would like to attract more women to the sector and all of that, but I think short and sweet, I mean, give them the opportunity. I mean, people that are working in the sector, they need to provide the right opportunity, the spaces for them to be part of it. That is one thing. And the other thing is, like, as you are mentioning, I mean, having them, provided them the right information, why this is important, why this is going to be the future for all of us, and also, yes, tell them how much money they're going to earn. Tell them what type of jobs they're going to have and all those type of things. Actually, I mean, you may laugh, but I mean, the different organizations have been trying to understand why women are not studying particular careers. And sometimes this has to do only with information because they don't know what type of jobs they are going to get. And when you start providing this type of information, then they're, oh, okay, well, I'm going to get into that career because you're not going to stay always in the same field, right? I mean, or the same position. You're going to start getting other type of positions, there are more leadership, etc. And those things are attractive, right? So I think, I mean, at the end of the day, when you are talking about people, there is a lot of different dimensions that are pretty similar. And yes, we're just talking with Manuel about this in Latin America, for instance. You don't have a lot of people there studying engineering. But it's not only women, it's because in general they are not, because they are so scared of math that they don't want to study that type of thing. So, I mean, maybe it's a thing about teaching or maybe something else, right? But I mean, it's interesting. And thank you for the question, whoever it was.
If I also may say, just I'll take my World Bank hat out. I'll put like a European citizen hat. I think it's also a question of priorities in Europe, right? And I'm thinking we have these large targets of renewable, but it's the industrial policy following the targets that are important. So if hydropower becomes a priority along the value chain from research to industry, if money are actually invested because you want to develop a global chain of hydropower in Europe, then can actually attract young people because it's just, you see the 20, 30 years horizon in front of you and say, oh, that's actually an interesting, together with branding, because you obviously need also the right branding and not maybe hydraulic. I have a fluid dynamics degree, so I'm like part of those people who got there anyway, but yeah, it's not very fancy.
Thank you for that one. Michael?
I totally agree with you, and I'm happy that you made this comment because it makes me feel that I was not wrong jumping from wind to hydro. I still don't think I'm wrong because I know that the potential is here. And the future prospects and how we create these future prospects will be very important for the future of hydropower. And I think we have the possibility to think new. How can we use digitalization to make cheaper hydropower plants? How can we make human-free tunneling, cheap tunneling available for new hydropower products? There are, I hope that there are ideas out there that can help us realize the projects of the future.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? Because I have another answer from the audience that says having a good mentor. And that, of course, thank you for the question of Franz Haller from the university here. I think mentoring programs, as I introduced before, are key to development of people And this is not necessarily related only to gender, but also to any other level of professional development. And you cannot even start early enough to be a mentor, and I encourage all of you to do that. On an official basis, you're welcome also as men to do that for GWNET, because if you have somebody on your side when you're young and unexperienced that sometimes even pushes you and says, you can do that, go for it, that alone can help a lot. I remember my own age, 30, saying, would have somebody taken me by the hand and told me, come on, girl, I'll show you some of the things here. I tell you how it works also, all the things between the lines, between the official regulations. What is the mindset, the attitude, the culture in such a company to get well along with it and to fit in to a certain degree as a woman, as a youngster, as whatsoever. And this is obviously something that we need to do much more. We are on the course of modernization, not only in technical terms or financial terms, of industry terms, but I think we're also on a way towards modernization of this thinking. It's not a shame to go back to somebody and ask him or her for something. So that is my support of this statement. Thank you very much for that. And the other thing, and I think that will be coming out of the gender study also, is role models. If you have a strong woman or a strong man in front of you that has understood what your needs are, and you say, okay, I want to follow that example, that also helps a lot. But if you, as a woman, if you see a woman that has made it and is cooperative, I don't talk about all the negative examples here that are also there, it is second to none for a younger woman to say, wow, she has made it. If she did it, I'll go and ask her, and I can make it too. And that in hydro industry really is a gap that does not yet take so much place. I was pleased to hear from an ex-colleague today of my former company that they made it to hire 4 or 5 women engineers in a group. And we're really proud of that, and they can be. And then it turns out the group is 15 people big. So that again leads us back to the 30%, but at least it is the 30%. If we only make a goal and say, let's at least try the next 5 to 10 years to reach 40, that will make quite a change in terms of cultural attitudes, of mindsets, of everything. But of course, as somebody said, the organizations have to be open, receptive, and welcoming. And that is another issue we found out in that study with many interviews, that sometimes women simply feel they are not welcome for whatever reasons. We could start from maternity leave to something like that. And let me tell you, from my point of view over all these years, only because women get more rights that they should already have does not mean men do not have rights anymore. It's just about catching up. And I read somewhere that rights is not a pie. It's given to everybody. You cannot just cut out a piece for yourself. So I think that was my plea for today, to say the industry that is rather oldish should modernize and renew, and on very many levels. And if there's more fresh wind through younger people, we will get there much faster. And I can only encourage everybody to sort of be part of that, as hydro is part of the solution and not part of the problem. We didn't talk about much climate change so far, but I think we can still do a little round.
We are all aware of that.
Yeah, we have 20 minutes left in time, so maybe we go through another round of sort of statements. If you have this one sentence for us today, please let us know. And other than that, more audience questions are welcome. If you want, but I do not want to spend more time than we all feel we should put into this. So let's go for big statements now, Eddie.
One point you said, industry should be more open and more prospective in terms of women. I think that's also valid for the universities.
Okay. Well, why don't you start running a mentoring program?
Yeah, we have mentoring.
We
have mentoring programs. Okay. We have mentoring programs. We have this MINT Programs, it's not that we don't do things in that way. We encourage. We have this Daughters' Day and so on. So this is done. There is a mentoring program for women in our university, but basically, technical universities are, women are less underrepresented, and I don't know. Yeah, maybe it has to do with mathematics or whatever, but yeah.
It has to do with a lot of opinions also on each side, and I think it's time for a change in these opinions also, but I don't want to take this away from anybody else. Michael, what is your big statement for today?
Regarding gender, I can say that I think that half of the students on my field, power engineering, mathematics, and IT in Trondheim is over 50%. So in some years, we will be sitting here talking about how we can get more men into power engineering.
I'm waiting for that day. Okay,
But I think what should be this finishing statement from my side is that one of the steps for change of the hydropower business is to switch from the approach where we are looking on new projects, making our calculations, and then we go out to publish them and apply for permits. I think we, to much larger extent, should work in the sustainability triangle, where economy is only one of the pieces, environmental, sustainability, biodiversity, environmental design is the other, and then the public acceptance is the last one. Only if we can make this triangle active early in the process and apply some of the new competence knowledge from these fields that engineers are not so comfortable with, we will have the opportunity to reform hydropower, as I think we agree that we need to do.
Okay, thank you very much. Nathyeli?
I think thinking about like gender equality issues are not women's issues, are everybody's issues. At the end of the day, what you like to have is like a good work environment, and that can contribute to having more women, right? I mean, having different perspectives, hearing to other voices and all of that. So I think men should be involved as well in this type of discussions, not only women, because at the end of the day, they are the decision makers in most of the time. So they're going to make the decision at the end with us. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Summarizing in one word, I think it takes a village, is what I was thinking, to do hydropower. Everybody needs to come together to make it happen, and I like the idea of the triangle. And maybe adding, on the perspective of the industry, I think, and we have maybe private sectors in the room, but we need also to give the industry the ideas on how you actually finance these new hydropower services. Because before, you're right, like before it was technical studies, you do that, you know your revenue stream, you know how much you're gonna make, you actually have environmental and social, but we are rethinking hydropower in a way that is like providing services to the grid, is stabilizing, is actually a much more market-based resource. And for a capital-intensive project like hydropower, we need to find a way to ensure revenue stream supporting from government actually to do because of a greater goal or a greater good of climate change. So it's bringing all these elements together really is going to require a paradigm shift even in the industry.
So to sort of come to the conclusions, it looks like modernization of the sector in terms of these age groups, of the education overall, starting from STEM very early, of course, and then in modernization of the sector in terms of academia, research and development, and networking efforts. I mean, that's what we see here on a European level, and we see that the World Bank is sort of taking care that financial basis is created, and they are willing on a on a basis also of a hydropower sustainability standard that is finally come to grips, not in so many applications as we might wish for so far, but it will come. I was involved in that development for a certain time. I know how long it alone took to get from the protocol to the standard. It was 20 years when I did my first workshop there with Pravin Karki of World Bank, who was still at IHA at the time. So hydropower is something very big. The projects are big, they take long. For that reason, the industry also takes long times very often, and including all social and environmental aspects, by nowadays standards, is even more challenging. I mean, we heard that relating to Austria alone this morning all the time, and I think it's not different in any other country. There are countries where you have to include indigenous people's interests and take care of them because, and that's my saying towards the finances now, if you don't put money in, there will be no money out at the end. On the contrary, if you don't take care of all these aspects in the planning or early phase of a project, you will pay for it later and the payment will be multiple as compared to the payment you would have done in doing sort of management plans for indigenous people and other. And I think the industry has helped to develop that and come far with that, but we need to see more application in terms of, and we can be happy that the World Bank has taken this initiative and promotes the standard in their project development or modernization development, not refurbishment, yeah. So the modernization on all levels seems to be one of the key issues, and the other point would be the cooperation among diverse initiatives. Because what we found when we started putting this together and do calls is that the cooperational versus competitive part was also underneath a very prominent point to say it's not that we compete against each other, and that was supported by the statement on it's much more open to and ready to share what you said. This was not the case for a very long time also, I think. So I think we've come quite a way, but also there is quite a way to go still. And if we come back in 20 years, we'll be the seniors to sit in the front row so we will understand everything and see everything probably. Not the two from the World Bank, they are too young for that, but the rest of that. And see how far we have come then, but it's time to do that transition within the transition of all energy on a global level to fight climate change and to modernize. A big old sector has to modernize and become younger, more diverse, more gender-related whatsoever. And we can only do that by cooperating and not competing. And there's a lot of things out there. And my call now to you is go back to each of the initiatives that you've heard about today. You can cooperate, take part in all of these on an unpaid, voluntary basis. But I think it creates value. It creates value for yourself because you learn a lot. And the knowledge management that takes place in such groups is tremendous and help others to know these things too. So communication as another issue of the sector for many, many years should be badly improved into something more modern, more attractive, to get the youngers in an understanding. And the channels we still use, I mean, I talk about my age group sort of, the channels are not modern enough. And modernization and diversification and cooperation. Let me end with this. If nobody else has any more comment, I think I close the session and thank you all for being so attentive. Thank you.
Thank you.